Welcome back to another video, people. We don't have a workout today. We have something a little bit different. Just finished up my pre. I'm going to be training legs today, but I'm going to be coming at you guys with a video about the 3 biggest mistakes that I made when it came to training legs, when it came from me getting big legs, even as I was men's physique, and the mistakes that I continued to make after that until I realized some of the issues that I was having with my training. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to deliver as much value as possible for this video. All right, 3 biggest mistakes that I made so that you don't have to make them when it comes to getting big ass legs as in men's physique legs that are big, going into open size legs. Okay, so I already had big legs when I was men's physique, but it's gonna take another level of fullness, size, roundness, muscularity for me to do well in the open. So have at it. Hope you guys enjoy the video. I'll see you guys in like 0.1 seconds as we go to tip number 1 across the gym. When it comes to something, a big mistake that I was making when it came to my leg training was I pulled out squat patterns because of fatigue. Okay, the reason I did that was, to be honest, I don't know. You know, if I can think about something, it was because I didn't have somebody guiding me with my training. I didn't have a coach at the time. Okay, when I was an amateur, before I hired my coach that I still have to this day. And I was like, you know what? I can still get the most out of my leg training. I can still make progress and gains by doing machines, more isolated movements, you know, because then my joints feel better and my joints aren't as fatigued, okay? And that was a huge mistake that I made coming up because, you know, then when it comes down to doing bigger movements like a squat pattern, like on a pendulum, a back squat, you know, a Smith machine back squat, hack squat, etc., it's going to make the joints even worse because they're not used to that load, okay? So that's why I just wanted this first tip for you guys to be very simple, straight up. Like, don't take out your squat patterns, okay? Keep your squat patterns in. With your squat patterns, you can get quads out of your squat patterns. You can also get adductors and glutes out of a squat pattern. But it depends on where you're putting your feet on the platform, okay, and how you're setting up. So I think I wasted a lot of time by doing leg workouts where I was doing a lot of supersets of, you know, leg extensions, hamstring curls, single leg RDLs, single leg presses, body weight lunges, supersetting all this stuff, but I didn't have anything heavy in my plan. Maybe I was getting stronger in those movements, but I wasn't getting bigger, okay? So keep the fundamentals in there, all right? Keep the hack squats, keep the pendulum squats, keep the back squats, etc. You know, personally for me, I avoid doing anything back squat where it's going to be a crazy spinal loading because of my pre-existing back injury, okay? But instead, I do a pendulum squat because it feels great in my back, it feels great in my core, all right? I'm not blowing this massive amount of air and pressure out of my core, all right? But I'm still doing a squat pattern. So that's tip number 1. Keep the squat patterns in there. Don't avoid the hard shit just because of fatigue, okay? The reason you're gonna be feeling like crap when you do some of the hard stuff is because you've been avoiding fatigue for so long. And guess what? There's a completely, in the off season and in prep, there's a completely acceptable amount of fatigue that needs to be there to build muscle and also to get leaner, all right, in prep, all right? So that's tip number 1 for you. See you guys at tip number 2. Also, I'm wearing the Samson hoodie because today Samson guest posed and looked absolutely sick. So I'm about to drop my top 5 at the Olympia. Samson, Nick, Derek, Marty, Andrew, that's my top 5. All right, now I'm getting into my second thing that you guys should avoid that I made a mistake over when it came to my leg training when I was an amateur before I was a pro, okay? And that was, I was still, I always train to failure, y'all. Like, I always train to failure. I'm always training balls to the wall. If I'm on a hack squat, I'm gonna bottom this thing out because I can do it safely, okay? I can do it safely. I've got a good ankle mobility, flexibility, etc. But one thing that I should have avoided was I would lose composure during my sets. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, if I had somebody spotting me on a hack squat, and I'm on here, and I'm training to failure, all right? I would have that person, you know, do 5, 6, 7 extra force reps And that's great, because to be honest, to this day, I'll still do that. But during those force reps, what I would do is I would psych myself out. All right, I would start freaking yelling. When I train, even to this day, I don't train quiet. I'm pretty obnoxious, and I don't even mean to be. I just can't hear myself, and this shit hurts, okay? But I would be getting this hack squat, I'd be smacking my legs as I'm holding this weight up here, okay? And I would be like, yo, let's go. I'm screaming, using all this extra energy just to psych myself out when I have somebody right here that is going to be putting pressure on the load so that I can still get that weight up, and I don't think it took away from my gains, but it made me, by losing my composure, kind of made me lose connection with the tissue that I was trying, or with the muscle that I was training, okay? So I'm a big advocate always, as everybody should be, train your balls off, train to failure, train hard, stay focused. If you gotta let out some grunts, let out some grunts. But if you're going to be letting the entire gym and the 5 businesses down the road know that you're at the gym training legs, are you actually getting more out of your training session? Like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'm not the type of person where it's like, if somebody doesn't like the way I sound when I'm training, I don't give a shit, okay? Like, I don't care. That's not for me to worry about. But I'm talking about myself. If I have to get extra over the top and smacking my legs when I'm training and doing all this hype up stuff just to get a few more reps, and I'm not feeling it how I should feel it at the same time, it's kind of defeating the purpose of it. So always train hard, train to failure, train as close to failure as you can, get psyched up, but sometimes channel that energy into focusing on the load when you're down here. Focus that energy on when you're down here. Are you bouncing? Realizing, are you bouncing, or are you keeping that load on your quads? And if I can be more composed during my sets and I can be more in tune with my body, I will feel the exercise better. I will feel the target muscle better, especially when it comes to being at the bottom, making sure that I'm not, bouncing at the bottom, putting all this momentum on my knees, etc. So, tip number 2, hope it helps. That's something that I made just a mistake I made as I was getting into it, and at the end of the day, I don't think it made me a worse bodybuilder. I don't think it left gains on the table. Left gains on the table. But I think just having a little bit more composure when I train helps me stay focused on the task at hand and making sure that that muscle is exhausted from the beginning, or not from the beginning, but it's exhausted all the way to the end, and I cannot perform quality contraction any longer, okay? If I did not hold composure, then I would honestly get lost in the sauce. I would be like, am I still contracting? Is this really are these reps quality reps anymore? Because I was so focused on being a psycho when I was doing this set, smacking my legs, etc. So that's a mistake that I made. But some days before, like to this day, I'll get psyched up before I start doing my set. I'll control my breathing, control my heart rate, breathe through my nose for a little bit, do some internal dialogue talk, maybe say some shit out loud, get psyched up, then get into it, then I'm composed, and I channel that energy into what I'm doing at that moment. So, tip number 2, be at you at number 3 in a little bit here. All right, so I'm probably gonna do like 5 tips here, guys, because I keep thinking of stuff that I did wrong. It wasn't until 2023 where I actually started doing adductors as working sets and not as just like warming up my hips, okay? Now, I don't want to just say doing the adductor machine as the only thing for my adductors, but I was doing other adductor work in 2023 as well. That's when I started doing it. But do not avoid this machine. Do not avoid training your adductors, because that's how you're going to close that gap from the back and from the front when you are posing on stage. And that's what creates a complete look. There's that, if somebody's got massive legs, big sweeps from the back, big quad sweeps from the back, they've got dugout hamstrings, but there's a 3, 4, 5 inch gap between their thighs, it just looks off. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, this is bodybuilding. This is about like showing as many of our strong points as possible and trying not to present our weak points. And guess what? Trying not to present our weak points on stage starts by fucking training them in the off season in the gym, okay? So it's not always about posing to your strengths so you're showing less weak points. No, you can make those weak points less noticeable by training in the gym. Adductors is one of them. Do not avoid training your adductors with an adductor machine. Do not avoid doing adductor focused leg presses as well too, because those have helped me a ton bring up my adductors and close that thigh gap from the back and from the front. So bringing it from 3 to tip number 4. Tip number 4, something that I see people still doing to this day is that they are not training their legs frequently enough, okay? I have 2 leg days per week, all right? Now, I don't have any more in my plan. I don't have a quad day and then a hamstring day. I'm hitting quads and hamstrings on both of those training sessions, and I'm hitting hamstrings on a back day. So technically, my frequency is 2 full leg days per week, and I have some frequency thrown in on a 3rd day, okay? Now, I used to be the type of person where I would only do quads on one day, then only hamstrings on the other, and I couldn't hit my other body parts as much as I should have been, as much as I could have, because I was training my legs not wrong, but I wasn't thinking about my frequency, my volume, my intensity, and where I was placing those leg days throughout the week. So you can totally, like, if your quads are a weak point and you need bigger quads, dude, by all means, train your quads all on one day, and if you don't need to allocate that stimulus to your hamstrings and adductors and glutes, then you don't have to as much, okay? But if you need to bring up your legs as a whole, think about increasing your frequency, and maybe that means you need to bring down your volume or bring down your intensity on some of your movements so that you can fuck up the muscle enough that it is forced to adapt, and then 48, 72 hours later, hit it again, and you may only be 80% recovered, but that's okay. You can still train it again. I'm a big proponent of that, of like, whatever you're training, fuck it up enough that you can hit it again in 48, 72 hours later, okay? Same thing with your legs. Today I'm training legs and I have more hamstrings than I do quads, but guess what? I'm still gonna be training them balls to the wall as hard as possible, because I know today is Saturday. By the time Tuesday comes around, I'll be able to hit my hamstrings and my quads again, because my volume has been pulled back just a little bit, but I'm still training everything to failure, okay? And it's strategically set up like that for me and how I recover. So don't be afraid of increasing your frequency of leg training throughout the week, because that's something that I used to do, and I wasn't giving my hamstrings enough time and my adductors, okay? And then they had to catch up. Now my hamstrings are more of a strong point than my quads, you know? So now I'm putting a lot more into my quads on some of my training days. So I think that's a tip that everybody can benefit from, is play with your frequency, play with your volume, play with adding in leg training on other days of the week as well. Maybe that means throwing in some hamstrings or some quad extensions at the end of an arm day or at the beginning of an arm day, etc. But don't just put all of your leg training in one day and then you're sore for another week before you hit it again. Don't do that, okay? Like, don't do that unless you absolutely need to. That's the only way that you can program it in there, okay? So that's tip number 4. Damn, as I keep going on with these tips, I'm thinking of more that I can give you guys, but I'm gonna go to tip number 5 here, which is going to be an absolute banger, and that is literally a 180 flip around the camera, and we're gonna talk about some glute training. It may seem stupid, it may seem gay, it's not. Bro, I'll put 7 plates on this thing, and I'll be thrusting this shit all day. And I've got large glutes, okay? So as a bodybuilder, and especially as classic, and even hell, men's physique, if you've got small glutes, build your glutes up so that when you're in your board shorts, they're actually tight around your glutes and it's not saggy, okay? When you're a classic guy and you're a bodybuilder and you got underdeveloped glutes, it's very, very noticeable. So do not shy away from glute training. You don't have to do hip thrusts if you don't like this machine. You don't have, like, do I do kickbacks? Oops. Do I do kickbacks? No, I don't do kickbacks. But I do hip extension movements. I do hip thrusts, okay? because I know that it works for me and my glutes grow from it. So another piece of the puzzle that you need to fit in and perfect is the balance of the lower body, and glutes is a major part of that. So do not avoid glute training. I literally avoided glute training all of my years, like direct glute training, all of my years of bodybuilding up until 2024 actually, okay? Even though I was getting it in from squat patterns and stuff like that and lunges and stuff, but my glutes never started to really grow like crazy until 2025 and the end of 2024 when we made the switch to skip a division and go up to open. So glute training, guys, especially you guys, do not skip it, do not miss it. It's really important. Getting that very developed glute ham tie-in is very good. It's good to see on stage. It goes to show that you are diligent with your training. So that's tip number 5. Hell, I'm gonna start my workout. I may have 2 more tips coming for you guys, but I'm gonna start training, and yeah, I'm gonna say right now to Ken, don't worry, I'm gonna have 2 more tips. I'll come get you in the middle of the workout just to get 2 more tips for the camera, because I keep thinking of stuff that I did wrong. So this video is for everybody watching, all my supporters, all the HOSSTILE fans, all the people that are using my code. I'm trying to give back to you guys. That's why I do social media. I don't do social media for the views. I don't do social media for any clout, okay? If I did do social media for the views and for the clout, I would have way more followers than I have now, okay? But guess what I wouldn't have? I wouldn't have impact. I wouldn't have a positive influence on somebody's life. I wouldn't have the knowledge and respect from other people as well, or that I do have. So these are the videos I make are for you guys, and I love that you guys are giving me the platform to do them on, and the feedback is fantastic. So this video turned in from 3 tips of mistakes that I made with leg training to now 6 or 7. But anyway, I'm gonna get going with this leg day. Ken's gonna take a break behind the camera. Next time you see me is gonna be in 0.1 second when I'm just drenched in sweat. A mistake that I made a ton when I was coming up was I would, for the very early years of my bodybuilding journey, when it came to training legs, like I've always had very strong legs, okay? And even when I was like an amateur and I was men's physique, I trained legs hard as hell. But something that I would kind of fall into sometimes was I would, how do I put it? I would get too focused on the pump, and I would put less focus on the intensity and the contraction of whatever exercise that I was doing, the intent behind the exercise. Because you can do whatever work, like whatever exercise and get a pump, doesn't mean your legs are gonna grow. Or it doesn't mean that's the best way that they're gonna grow, okay? You don't have to train balls out all the way to failure. Hell, Jay Cutler never trained to failure, but guess what? I enjoy training to failure. I enjoy burying myself in sets and going all out until I can't give any more. Even if that means I can only do 2 sets of that exercise, all right? But I would avoid sometimes training as hard as I could, and I would just resort to having the pump carry me into the next week where I felt more fresh. If you're gonna depend on feeling fresh to be the determining factor if you're gonna train or not, you might as well stop fucking bodybuilding right now. We're never gonna feel fresh, especially if you're training how you should be training, with the intensity, the intent, the focus, the rest times, etc. You're never gonna feel fresh all the time. So something that I think you guys, just a mistake that you should avoid is succumbing to the, oh yeah, I'm not feeling the best today in terms of energy or my joints, and you know, I'm just gonna get my pump work done and just do my exercises that are on my plan, but not go all the way out to failure because it's whatever, I still got next week. No, you're never gonna grow legs that way. I'm being honest right now. Today I didn't have a super energetic, uplifting mood coming into the gym today. I was outside doing yard work and working on my boat all day. I was tired. My hands are cut up. You know, my knees hurt from kneeling on metal on the floor of my boat all day. But guess what? I'm still here training my balls off, all right? So avoid that mistake. Avoid falling into that mindset. Avoid that mindset even creeping into your mind when it comes to anything with training, not just legs, okay? And I think that goes hand in hand with, I can make this its own tip with itself or its own mistake that I made, but I think this can go hand in hand with getting confused of what actually causes hypertrophy, okay? Volume is not the only driver to muscle growth. It's not even the main driver to muscle growth. It is a lever that you can pull to increase the novel stimulus on whatever body part you're training. Too many people get confused or they just fall into the realm of, I have to do high volume, chasing the pump, I gotta do low rest times, 45-second rest, supersets for everything, but their legs never grow. Guess what? I used to fall into that category. These things go hand in hand for tip number 6 or 7, whatever we're on, okay? So you have to come back to the basics and be like, what is the driver to hypertrophy? It is eliciting enough of a stimulus that forces your body to adapt, aka recover and build muscle and allocate nutrients to building that muscle, okay? And doing that over and over and over again. If you are not eliciting that stimulus to force your body to adapt, you will never adapt. The adaptation is muscle growth, aka you will always stay small, especially your chicken legs. So that is the next tip for you guys, and I'm gonna continue training, and I will see you guys on tip number 7. Yeah, those leg presses. Low, narrow feet. It's a different type of hell. That's what it's about though. It's about taking whatever weight's on that bar, not moving it from point A to point B, but moving it from point A to point B with tension at each end range and making it as hard as possible. All right, bear with me. I'm going to just smash the set on this. A mistake that I made, so you don't have to, for number 7 here, is don't be afraid to do more than one compound movement or compound exercise when you're training legs, okay? By doing 3 sets of hack squats, that does not mean that you can't do a leg press, or that you can't do a pendulum squat next, or a hip press, etc. I would waste so much time putting all my energy into 2 sets. Well, not even waste time putting my energy into 2 sets on a hack squat or a big heavy pattern or movement squat pattern. I wouldn't say it was wasting time, but I didn't have that flip or that switch flipped in my brain that was like, hey Nick, you're tired, you're exhausted, but guess what, you aren't. You're not a fucking pussy. You can totally do a leg press. And guess what, you can do 3 sets of a leg press, okay? So just because you're burnt out, fatigued after your couple sets of your heaviest compound movement on leg day does not mean you should shy away from another compound or 2, and does not mean that you have to go and do all isolation machines after that, okay? If you're to only depend on that for your leg training as you're trying to get big ass legs, you're not gonna get big legs. Take Samson for example. Samson's legs are freaking massive, okay? Samson, when he trains legs, he still trains with the utmost intent, the most intensity, very meticulous training, and he is emotional about it in the best ways possible. Like, he knows why he's doing it. He puts emotion behind every rep, okay? But you don't see him doing back squats anymore or all this stuff because he already built that tissue. He already built that foundation. But as he was coming up, you're a fool if you thought that he only did 2 sets of hack squats and then machines for the rest of the workout. No, that's not what happened. That's not how he built his big ass legs. So that's the 7th mistake that I made, so you don't have to make that mistake. All right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This video was for you guys, for me to give you value, like I said earlier. IFBB Pro tips and tricks and mistakes that I made so that you don't have to make them. All right? Drop it down below in the comments, your top 5 Olympia predictions. I'm gonna be at the Olympia here in probably 5 weeks by the time this video is posted. It's 6 weeks out right now, but I'm gonna be out there for a full week. I'm gonna see you guys out there. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Go support our boy Samson by buying some merch. and buying some dope ass stuff. Keep using my code. Keep kicking ass, people. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.